Hey y'all, so let's chat real briefly. This is a follow-up to my initial video because I feel like I needed to do a follow-up because when I did that video, I was still in a very sad place, and so some of my thoughts were clouded. I didn't really say everything that I wanted to say in relation to that topic. And since I released that video, I've had one of my really good friends, Ayana, vocalize her experiences. We went to college together, so a lot of what she spoke about I could personally identify with, and I know other women who follow her could identify with it as well. Like if you've ever been in a college culture, been a part of a fraternity culture, you know what I mean, those type of things, an athlete culture, then you can definitely speak to some of the behaviors that go on in those circles and how they are harmful towards women. So she spoke about some of this. She got some bad backlash, but she also got some really positive feedback from women who could identify with her story and, you know, had previous experiences with some of these same people. And so one thing I want to bring up is the fact that, ladies, what we need to start doing is we need to start calling a spade, right? So when I was first assaulted, I did not call it that for a very long time. I think a part of me, again, I've said this in other videos, when we think of the word sexual assault or abuse, we picture it as this big black ugly word. So we feel like we don't want to label anything lightly with that, whether it falls in the same category or not. And so it wasn't until I really got into my field and, you know, all of this stuff started hitting the media and where women were really identifying what sexual assault looks like, and that it doesn't look like just rape. It looks like getting your ass grabbed without consenting. It looks like somebody coercing you into sex because you've been drinking or you've been under the influence. Like, it doesn't always look like a clean cut, oh, he going to jail ass case. And so I had to get to a place in my own healing with the shit to be able to stop, because I would minimize it. And I minimized it because, again, like I said in my first video, I like that guy. We had been texting, getting to know each other, and where it happened, I was around people that I thought I could trust. So I never would have anticipated that being the scenario in which that happened to me. So for me, I was finding all these ways to downplay it. And one day I just had to be like, oh shit, it's some stuff going on. I'm sorry, y'all. One day I just had to be like, no, this is what it is. Like, that person took advantage of you and gave themselves access to your body without you saying that you wanted to do this, and without, to be, you know, give you a couple more details, I wasn't even fully aware. So that's one thing. We need to get comfortable with calling a spade a spade. If some shit is sexual assault, we need to be, it's hard to just throw that label out there, but it is. That's what it is, and we need to be okay with acknowledging that. That's the first thing. And then something else that I noticed that I did after it happened, even telling the story out loud, like internally, I felt like I was making like it bigger than it was. Like, he grabbed my ass. And I think for me, I was like comparing it to rape. You know what I mean? Like, so in the grand scheme of things, an ass grab seems way less harmful than like being raped, but it's all under the same umbrella. And I had to give myself the permission to be like, no, this is wrong. It's still wrong. I don't care if it's not rape. Like, it's still wrong. It's still a violation to my body, and I need to validate myself. Like, we sometimes as women, like, we invalidate ourselves just because of how we think the world is going to perceive something, or how we think other people are going to perceive it. So we act like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, or oh, it didn't bother me that much. Like, we really downplay the shit because we don't want the judgment or the backlash that's going to follow. And you know what else I tend to notice when this topic comes up? either men are very quiet, that's number one, or so my homegirl Ayana, when she posted her story, she ended up calling me and saying, you know, that I didn't answer because it was really late at night, but after she told the story, she ended up telling me how she got a lot of bad backlash from people who knew her perpetrators, and were trying to accuse her of trying to throw dirt on his name, pretty much. And it was really disheartening because, one, y'all not even reaching out to people for the right reasons. Like, let's be clear about something. A lot of men, when they get to hearing about this shit, the reason why it bothers them and they feel the need to deflect is because by acknowledging that they homie was wrong, they gotta acknowledge that A, they hang out with somebody who do shit like this, and B, they gotta think about their own actions. And when they did some shit that could be perceived or is sexual assault. And two, they know the implications of what being accused of something like this means in 2019. So that's scary. Y'all scared because now y'all really thinking back on every single thing that you've ever done to a woman, and if it was or was not inappropriate, and how that shit could come back and bite you in the ass. Like I said before, if you don't want somebody to have something bad to say about you, don't do bad shit. So I'm not ever saying that people can't learn from their mistakes or they can't evolve, but when y'all continue to enable, when y'all continue to not hold your male counterparts accountable, you are a part of the problem. Women too. Women who want to jump and say, oh, it's not that deep. Oh, bitches be lying. Like, they don't, again, what I said in my first video, he ain't got to do that. Like, he get bitches. You sound like a bird. You sound like a bird. Like, women more than, like, now more than ever, we need to have each other's backs on this shit. I don't care. If a woman say, he did that shit, I'ma stand by her now, and if the shit come out wrong, then we'll handle it. But I'm not gonna jump to say somebody is lying off back, especially about some shit like that, because it takes too much courage to come forward and say some shit knowing the implications or the ramifications that can come to you after the fact. Like, the fact that Ayana made her perpetrator somewhat identifiable, she has courage that a lot of women, like, that takes an extra level of courage. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I was to ever talk about who my actual perpetrator was, especially now, because he's more somebody now than he was back then, like, I cannot imagine the type of backlash that I would get. Because then that's when why you wait so long to say something, that's when all of that shit come up. But I keep telling y'all that it takes women, unfortunately, a lot of time, and I mentioned this in the R. Kelly video. Sometimes women, when that shit happen, we don't always know how to respond in the moment. So that's something else I want to briefly touch on, because that was another part of where I was going to take this additional video. Ladies, I don't want you to ever feel bad because you didn't know how to handle this in the moment. Like, I've had women say, you know, I just feel so mad that I didn't punch him in the face or I didn't tell him off. You know, they feel so bad about these things. And I myself, even in that moment, I felt regret for not checking him in the moment. And that's why I made sure to text him after the fact, because I didn't want to sit with the regret of not standing up for myself. And we got to cut ourselves some slack, because in that moment, we don't always know like what to do, because we're in shock. Like, especially if the shit that hasn't happened to you that often, like, you literally sit in shock of wondering, like, did that just happen? And worrying about how to handle it based on the context of like where the shit happened from. Because if you somewhere where you don't necessarily feel safe, yeah, you're not gonna say nothing, because you don't know what this nigga gonna do by you checking him about touching you inappropriately. But you know what? I feel like now the more aware we become of this shit when we go out, the better we can be at acting in the moment to make sure that we are checking these motherfuckers, because by not calling them out and being passive about it in the moment, unfortunately, we are helping to enforce in a way that what they're doing is not wrong. They aren't getting any embarrassment or a good stern talking to after the fact. And I think that is important, because unfortunately, like, and I sat and I talked with a man about this, and he said, he was like, I'm not invalidating you, and I'm not saying he's wrong. And I feel, he said, I feel like a lot of it is ignorance. Like, this type of behavior has worked for them with women, where they not even really perceiving what they're doing is wrong. And I'm gonna agree that some men probably do hold that amount of ignorance. You know what I mean? Some men probably do really think that, like, that's how you show interest in a woman, or whatever the case may be. Does it make it right? Or no, absolutely not. It's not our job to fucking educate, but clearly, like, we got to do our part. We got to do what we can in those moments, so that way we don't walk away feeling regretful. Because again, I know that feeling of just being like, damn, like, why didn't I do this, or I should have done this, and replaying the scenario in your head of how you wish you would have handled it. And show yourself some compassion in that, because we never know how to really react to shit until it happens. And even that night, I minimized it, because if I wouldn't have minimized it, I would have went and got my best friend Mike, and that nigga probably would have went and got the strap. Or if he ain't go get the strap, he would have definitely hemmed that nigga up. It's probably best I didn't tell him, because the night would have ended before it started. But still, like, I'm playing this shit back in my own head, where I'm like, damn. Even then, I kind of just brushed it off. And that's what we got to stop doing. We got to stop brushing it off. Because we're helping to normalize it. That we're helping to illustrate that these niggas can continue doing this type of shit. And that's what we don't want. But you know what? It's so necessary to have these conversations. Because shit like this, we don't talk about. We think, oh, it's everybody's personal business. Like, and by not talking about it, we aren't bringing awareness to the fact of how often this shit is happening, how consistently this shit is happening, how affected a lot of women in our circles are behind this type of behavior. Like, by talking about it within our own circles, whether that be within, with your friends, with your acquaintances, with your Instagram followers, that's your community. Your digital community, whatever you want to call it, that's your community. And you have the ability to help change narratives and perspectives by using that platform. And so I think that it's vital now more than ever that we have these discussions with each other, so that way we don't keep sweeping shit under the rug, because that's all that's been happening. And we make other women more comfortable to share, like, their situations, to share their experiences, to share their stories. Yeah, but a lot of men with shit to lose now, they getting scared behind these conversations, because they know what it means to be accused of sexual assault. Like, it's no ifs, ands, or buts. They clearly see what can happen to you and how quick your life can change and go down the motherfucking drain for some shit that you did 5, 10, 20 years ago. And shit always comes back to bite you in the ass. So that's one thing. It's always remember that, okay? And moving forward, think about how you cannot be a part of the problem. Like, that's one thing. And I mean, I probably didn't get as much interaction from men because I didn't post this to my actual Instagram story. But I feel like it was too many men that were quiet when I posted what I posted. Like, when I posted just that the fact that I was violated, and that niggas had me fucked up, it was women going to bat in my DMs like, are you okay? How is your mental? Like, I have somebody that I can refer you to that does meditation and that can help, can help you with your healing process. All types of stuff. I probably got 2 DMs from men. They was quiet as a mouse. So again, Think about what you can do to not be a part of the problem. You don't have to be the one out here being a creep or being rapey. But if you stand by and watch another man do the shit in front of you, you are just as responsible. If you know that your friend, and I did a video on enabling. I need y'all to go back and look at that. Look at that. If you know that your friend be on some creep shit and you continue to hang around him, be around him, or even if you decide to distance yourself and not check that man or tell that man that what he's doing is wrong, you are also a part of the problem. Okay? So I think that's all I got for part 2. I just had, sometimes after letting subjects marinate, I got a whole lot more to say about the shit or having other additional conversations with people. And I felt like that was important to put out there in addition to my first part of that message. Okay? So I thank y'all. I thank the women who've come forward and identified that they appreciate me for using my voice to speak up about some shit that's sensitive to me and using my own experience to talk about it, because it's not easy. Again, it took me a long time to even say that this was sexual assault. It took me a long time to be even comfortable telling my story. I just told my closest friends about being assaulted maybe 3 to 6 months ago, and they were like, bitch, why have you never said anything? Because one, like I said before, I'm not super emotionally connected to it, so it doesn't necessarily impact how I navigate life and how I have relationships or whatever with other people. Unlike, I work with women who have been assaulted, and that shit sticks with them every day, and it affects every entity of their life. I'm blessed that that's not me. And that's the only reason I'm able to sit here and talk about this shit, because it's a lot of women out here who are trying to heal from shit like this, and they don't talk about it. Because healing looks different for everybody. But I pray for people who are healing from things that they don't even discuss, that they don't even talk about, that other people don't even know about, because you literally like living with it inside of you. And I want to be able to at least share my shit, speak my piece, give my voice, so that way, even if y'all not talking about it, y'all know that somebody else feels y'all. That's why I do this, like, to show the concept of universality, that we all deal with a lot of the same stuff. And even though we don't talk about it, like, more than likely you and somebody who you don't like or enemy or whatever, y'all got more in common than y'all think. So y'all have a blessed Tuesday, okay? And the next time a motherfucker try you, or you witnessing somebody, a nigga trying a woman, use your voice. Use your voice. Get that extra gump, even if you don't do it in the moment. But before you leave, you find that nigga and you check him before you leave. Like I said, I ain't do it in the moment. I went after the fact. I let him know after the fact, after I had some time to sit on it. And even if you don't let it eat you. They was honking at him. They was honking at a nigga, okay? Don't let it eat you, okay? So y'all have a blessed one.